There we go. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's so many things to remember. And as basically what I've been saying is just like it is very early in the morning for me here, and that is very obvious by the fact I forgot to unmute myself. Would it be the start of the week if somebody didn't forget to unmute themselves in some kind of video call? Like it just has to happen in everyone. I'm glad I got it out of the way pretty early on my week for me. So appreciate the heads up in chat. Really, really thank you so much for that. That would have been really embarrassing if I just kept blathering on. But yeah, so good morning, everybody else on the U.S. East Coast. For anybody on the U.S. West Coast, good night, I guess. Like, why are you watching this so late at night? Go hydrate, go to bed. You can catch the recording will be on YouTube later. And for all my other folks in Europe and beyond, I hope your day is going really well so far. I know this is like a fun way to start my day and to start my week. We're actually going to stream twice this week. I'm going to stream today. I'm going to stream again on Thursday, just because we're a little bit behind. Hey, good morning, Ben. Nice to see you. So in the UK, hi, Richard. That's originally where I'm from. So yeah, so my old time zone. But yeah, so the great way to start a week. We are going to do 2 this week, as I was saying. We're going to do 1 today. We're going to do 1 again on Thursday, just because it's been a couple of weeks since I've been streaming. I know we started off a couple weeks ago, and then I immediately had to go and do a couple of conferences, so I missed streaming for 2 weeks there. I was in PyCon, Italy, giving a talk on Rust for Pythonistas. So I'm looking forward to the video of that coming out that I can share with everybody. But yeah, so I'm going to stream today. I'm going to stream again on Thursday. We also have a couple more streams coming up for you all. There's going to be another one on this channel, actually, about an hour after I finish today. We're going to have, I think it's on Ink, on smart contracts. So please hang around for that one. We have Lauren is going to be streaming tomorrow on Substrate seminars, a usual slot. So keep an eye for that as well. And I said, I'll be back on Thursday. And then we will have another deep dive on Friday. So we have a lot going on this week. That's all going to be either wherever really you want to tune in, so Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, we'll stream to all the different places. So yeah, subscribe whichever service you like the best, and we'll stream to it, and we'll see you multiple days this week. So that's gonna be very exciting. But yeah, so let's kind of remind ourselves what it is that we were working on last time. So for people new to the stream, I am going to be building essentially a blockchain from scratch, a substrate based chain. So not from scratch, but like from scratch with Substrate. So it does a lot of the heavy lifting for me, if I'm being very honest. But yeah, so I'm going to build a new substrate based blockchain. We started last time and we were looking at like building maybe a logistics chain. And I've had a little think about that since the last stream. And while it is a very common use case, logistics is, people not familiar with the term, is kind of the management of shipping things from one place to another, so that's a fairly common use case for blockchains. You want to have some kind of immutable ledger of where something's been, who's handled it, that kind of like chain of custody type thing. But I was looking at kind of the stuff we could include in our custom blockchain for that, and it doesn't cover an awful lot of some of the more advanced things that palettes offer. So I made a little change. Hey, hola, Tane Elite. Oh, 1337. I've not seen some Elite speak in a while, so welcome to the stream. But yeah, so I'm thinking about doing a projects palette instead. And what I mean by projects palette is something we can use like multi-sig on, so a way of managing projects off-chain, but with on-chain rewards. Okay, so you would have like a client who's requesting some work to be done, and then we would have the provider, whoever's going to be completing the work, and then some kind of adjudicator to manage disputes between the two of them. Okay, and that could be our multi-sig then. So we'll have 3 people or 3 accounts on the multi-sig, and any 2 of them will be our threshold. So if the client and the provider, if they are both in agreement that the work has been completed, great. We don't need the adjudicator. They can just like approve transfers between themselves. But if the client and the provider don't agree, so say the client is like, hey, this has not been finished to the spec that I wanted, or the quality of work is not high enough, whatever, then it goes to the adjudicator. And the adjudicator can decide to like, yeah, okay, I'm going to pay out anyway. And then it's like the provider and adjudicator can make that decision. Or the client and adjudicator can decide, actually, this is only 50% complete, so we're only going to pay out 50% of the reward. So some kind of system there where we have Richard saying they've built our local excavate real estate centric asset mining lending protocol node, but having trouble creating a network. Would it be possible to do a deep dive on that 1 week, please? Protocol node. Yeah, I need a little bit more context around it, Richard, but possibly. And if not on this stream, we have the deep dives on Fridays. We also have Substrate seminar every Tuesday. I'm sure that one of us can cover it, whichever one is best suited for it. If you do have like requests, I should say this for especially Substrate seminar. I think they have a GitHub repo where they have issues for creating requests. I will try and dig that out while we're kind of like talking later on today and see if I can find out if that is still true and where you can put in requests like that. Otherwise, oh, there we go. Thank you very much, Ben. Really appreciate it. So yeah, so if you do have requests for streams that you would like us to cover, pop them in there for now. If it's not something that we can cover on Substrate seminars, and it is something that actually would be better for me to cover, then it all goes to the same team, and we can review it, have a look at it, and make sure it gets action for you. But yeah, Richard, if you want to pop a little bit more context around your real estate centric asset mining lending protocol node, then yeah, pop it into an issue there, and we will take a look at it and let you know if it's something that's going to be covered in this stream, seminars, deep dives, wherever. But I'm sure we can get one of them to look at it for you. But yeah, so today we're going to be writing a custom palette, or starting to write a custom palette that's going to look at managing projects. It's going to use like multi-sig, so we can have these 3 people, of only 2 of them that need to be part of a decision. It also means we get to use like assets as well, and balances and stuff like that, which is obviously a really common thing that we use a lot in blockchain. So that we'll have some kind of pot that is controlled by the multi-sig that can pay out fees whenever a provider hits a milestone, that kind of stuff. So in the first stream, let's just bring my screen up here so y'all can see what I'm talking about. So on the first stream, we looked at the Substrate node template. So the Substrate node template is, I always want to make this clear right from the start, it is a blockchain node. That is what the node in the name means, not node as in the language. Okay, blockchain node. And it's all in Rust, and it comes with like a template palette in there. Last time we renamed that to logistics. We got that all set out. I have now, oh, I have a spider on me. Oh, that was kind of freaky, if I'm being honest. I'm like, I can feel something. I am in the middle of, well, not middle, the south of Florida, folks, and we have a lot of wildlife here. And it seems some of it, I woke up this morning when I've arrived at, oh yeah, I've got that really creepy feeling, when I'm pretty sure I managed to get it off me, but I still feel like it's on me somewhere. Yeah, Ben saying, yeah, you're in Florida. It could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse. I did not scream and run. I kind of wanted to, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I actually don't mind them an awful lot. Normally, I try not to kill them or anything, because they do help keep some of the other insects down, especially like mosquitoes and stuff we have here, which are really bothersome. But yeah, still don't like it running about on me, on my arm. That was kind of a little bit freaky and pretty ticklish. But yeah, at least it was just a spider. It is Florida. We have a lot more other wildlife around here than it could have been. I used to live on the canal, so we had gators in our backyard. So that was fun. Oh God, I just if you spot a spider on me, you'll let me know, chat, right? Yeah. We have a question about talk about frame different from substrate node template and what frame solves. You're getting a little confused. Sure. So the substrate node template is basically a quick start for creating your own blockchain node. And it includes a few different things in there. One is a runtime. And we can bring up and look at it here. So we have a couple different folders. One is your runtime. And this is essentially your actual like node. And this is going to import all your different palettes, and it is going to have your configuration and everything you need to get your actual node running. So if we were to look at, I think I've got a browser here I can go look at. So, if we go to Polkadot network, let's go look at some of the ecosystems and development, sorry. So we're going to look at Substrate. And in Substrate, we're going to take a look at our GitHub, which is somewhere. Let's go developers. Home developers docs maybe, and let's go build a blockchain. Okay, and this build a blockchain, this is what it's going to run you through, is like installing first of all the Rust kind of environment, but it's got the Substrate node template. And the Substrate node template, as I said, it's got your runtime. It's got like a template palette in here, and we'll talk about what palettes are in a second. But one of the other things that we should probably look at as well is let's look at the actual like Polkadot. Okay, so this is Polkadot. This is the relay chain. Okay, and this is just a node as well, and it's got a runtime folder, and we can see here the different runtimes. So we have Polkadot, the relay chain. We have Kusama, our Canary network. We've got Rococo, our test network, etc. These are all different runtimes. So these are all just like different configurations of Substrate. And one of the other things that Substrate provides is what we call Frame. And Frame is essentially a collection of palettes. And palettes are essentially Rust crates. Okay, so they're individual modules of code. And we maintain, let's see if I can just search in here, a bunch of different Frame palettes. So Frame palettes. These are individual modules. Now, some of these palettes, are system palettes, things like benchmarking, the actual like system itself. But we also have functional palettes, and these add different functionality to your blockchain, to your substrate-based chain. So we have things in here for managing assets. We have stuff for doing consensus. We have things for like managing balances or providing bounties. We have like smart contracts, all different kind of functionality you might want to add to your chain. So you can compose your blockchain out of these different Frame palettes. So you can go, okay, well, I want to have the smart contracts palette, and I want to use governance, and I want to have, this consensus model, and I want to have some concept of assets, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So you can configure your runtime out of all of these different palettes. Or if, you want to do something slightly different, then you can write your own custom palettes and use those as well. Okay. So it's like, it allows a lot of freedom and a lot of composability in how you construct your blockchain. We provide, or as part of Frame, we provide a lot of different palettes to cover a lot of the very common use cases that you may have. But obviously we can't cover every single use case. That way you can write your own palettes that you can include. So Substrate is like the blockchain SDK, and then Frame and palettes are the modules of code that add different functionality to your chain. Now excuse me. As we saw in like earlier Substrate seminars around, oh gosh, what was it called? Tuxedo. You can replace the entire Frame system if you want. Like, you don't actually have to use Frame to use Substrate. So like Frame provides you I said, a lot of these different modules and a lot of different functionality. But Substrate is so configurable that if you just wanted to use Substrate and replace Frame with your own module system, then you could do that as well. Hopefully that kind of covers the different things. Zoom in a little bit. Oh, I don't know what page that was on. Hopefully it's a bit better now. Which IDE has better tooling and support for Substrate, VS Code or IntelliJ? Substrate is just Rust. So whichever one you feel most comfortable working in Rust in. I use VS Code. But that's just personal preference. It's just what I'm used to, if I'm being honest. But yeah, it's whatever you're most productive in. It's just Rust after all. So yeah, whichever editor you want to use, to be honest. Frame is basically the palettes and subject no template. You write frame inside. So yes, exactly. Yeah. And Tuxedo is what you think about frame actually means. Yeah, I can't remember what frame stands for. I need to go look that up again. But yeah, and it's not just us that manage palettes for frame as well. There is the open runtime open OPM. I need to look it up. It's open time library or something for Substrate. Let me just check if I can find what this is. ORML, Open Runtime Module Library. Let's bring this over here so we can have a look. So there is other groups as well that are creating palettes for Frame, and that like make them available for people too. They've got ones in here for like NFTs. They've got ones in here like for vesting and XCM, and so it's an open source project. Other people can create modules and things and share them too for it. So hopefully that covers the whole thing. You're very welcome. Oh, yeah, somebody's got the framework for runtime aggregation of modularized entities. Sounds about right. Yeah, we'll go with that. Cool. So I have got the, where did we get to? This subject no template installed locally, and I've gone through and I've renamed the template to projects, and I've not really done anything else beyond that at the moment. So this is like if you're looking palettes librs here. I mean, this is like really this default that comes with it. I've just renamed it. So it's just got this like do something, which is, these are extrinsics. These are methods that are being exposed on the chain that can be called externally. So we have this do something function here, and we've got a cause error function. And if I was to run this chain, which I think I am, yep. Okay, so the chain is currently running, and I go to pogo.js. I can connect to the chain, which is, let's see if this is the correct one. So 438. Yeah, 438. Okay, so we're nicely connected to this. And I can go in extrinsics, and I can call some of these. So this is the projects module. This is like the new one I'm creating here. And so we got this cause error, which should throw an error if there's nothing stored on chain. I can't remember if I stored anything or not. We'll soon find out. I must have stored something. Okay, so let's go take a look at the chain state, and we can look at this project module. I'm going to look at something to see what I've stored. Yeah, okay, so there's like already something stored in there. What I can do is if I kill my chain and restart it with this. So this -- dev is going to start it in dev mode. And essentially what that means is it's going to go right back to Genesis. It's not going to keep state for me. So in instances like this, where I just want to have like a, no, nothing in storages or no state, kind of just stored in my chain in between runs, I can use that -- dev. And now if I go back and look here, 1, it should be back to like, yeah, so we're back to like 5. And if I go into extrinsics and do that cause error again, now our chain is empty. It should give a red one up here this time instead of green. Fingers crossed. Yep. Okay. So there's no value stored. So that's why it's got an error at the moment. And I can then, store a value in here. We're going to store 10, submit the transaction. Okay, so my node template is all up and running. You know, I can store things in it. I can look at like the chain state. Let's go. Yeah, so there's my 10 that's being stored. Okay, so my extrinsics can be called. I've got some storages in there. It's all looking good. So what I want to do then is start thinking about how I'm going to structure what I want to store on my chain for this project's palette. So I'm thinking, well, we're going to need to have our multi-sig account, you know, so the coffer, the account is going to store the tokens to pay any fees for the work that's completed. I'm probably going to want to like give the project a title. I'll need to know who the client is, who the provider is, and who the adjudicator is. And the reason I probably need to know those 3 account IDs as well, or 3 account IDs for each of those people rather than just like the multi-sig account address, is there'll be instances where I'll probably want to transfer funds from the multi-sig, from the coffer, to any of these 3 people, you know. So obviously I want to be able to transfer funds to the provider. So if they complete like a milestone on the project, I probably want to be able to like send them some funds to be like, hey, you know, thank you for completing that milestone. I want to get the adjudicator as well, because we probably need to pay them a fee for acting as the adjudicator. You know, sure, people do nice things because they're nice sometimes, but yeah, it would make sense that if they're going to be acting, if they're going to be completing a task, a job, then we probably want to give them some kind of remuneration for that. So we'll have like the adjudicators and a account ID for them that we can transfer into, and also the account ID of the client. So if there is a time when, like, say the job isn't complete, or you know, a provider vanishes and we need to, or a job is being cancelled or whatever else, that we could refund the tokens held by the coffer back to the client, whatever's left for that. So we're gonna have a few different account IDs that we want to store. We're gonna have like some other details about the actual project itself, you know. So we'll have some notes here. Yeah, like when it was created, on what the status of the project is, that kind of idea. So let's get started with that first. Let's bring up editor here. So I have some storages already here. We got this like something. We can get rid of that. We're not going to be storing like something anymore. I hate those kind of terms as well. We probably should have a little bit more descriptive naming for some of these things, but let's get rid of that, and let's create a struct to hold our project first of all. So I'm just going to grab like all the derives and things I'm going to need for this from and typing them all out. There we go. Okay. And we're going to do it's going to be a public struct called project. And we're going to need our generic type config in here. And what did we say we're going to put on it? So idle, which we're going to leave just for like a minute when I figure out what that should be. We're going to need the coffer. So this is, the coffer is going to be like our multi-sig. And what I mean by that, like a multi-sig address is, as far as our palette's concerned, it's just like a regular account ID. It doesn't need to know anything beyond that. There is a palette for handling multi-sig, which is going to do everything around kind of our thresholds and stuff. So we don't actually need to worry about the fact that this account is a multi-sig account. You know, as far as our palette's concerned, it's just like a regular account ID. So we can just use it like any other account ID. And then it'll be the multi-sig palette that'll handle things like ensuring that our thresholds be met before any action is taken using that account and stuff like that. So that's just going to be like a account ID. What else we're going to have in here? So we said we're going to need to have like the client account ID as well. Yeah, so account ID for that. We're going to need to know the provider. And we've got like our adjudicator. How do you spell adjudicator? Probably should pick an easier word for me to spell. Adjudicator. All right. Yeah, that's all right. Okay, cool. And what else we're gonna have in here? Probably want to have some milestones as well. Like a project, we don't want to be like, okay, a project is either fully complete or not complete. Anytime we have a project, you want to kind of probably check in on the status of it multiple times. So you'll have like, say we're developing this palette. We might have like milestones for getting the storages done, and we'll have milestones for getting like the extrinsics done, and we'll have milestones for, and so on and so on and so on. So yeah, let's have milestones. And again, these are going to be some kind of collection, but we'll leave that blank just for now while we kind of think about what we're going to put in there. We'll probably have like, when was this like project started, or when was like it initiated? So yeah, we're gonna have like some kind of created on for it. Yeah, we created on. And that is going to be the block height. So we're gonna have like our block number. It's gonna be a type block number. And that's something to kind of think about as well whenever you're thinking of blockchains, is you're never really storing like dates and times. That's not something necessary that we work with, mostly because like we've got time zones, and it's a decentralized system, distributed system. Which times it should work in UTC. It's very easy for times to start drifting and stuff as well. And obviously in blockchain, like consensus is a huge thing. If we can't reach consensus, we're going to have some problems. So I tend to just work with block numbers or block heights, rather than trying to store any kind of like timestamp and things. There is a mechanism for doing timestamps in Substrate, and that is like built into the chain as well. And there is an extrinsic that gets called every time a block is authored, to kind of figure out when it was done, as well as the block height. So you could use that if you wanted to. I tend to just work with kind of block numbers and block heights and things, especially if I'm doing durations as well. I know what the average block authoring time is, so I can kind of work out, every 6 seconds there's a new block. So if I want it to be, every minute, then it's going to be 10 blocks is going to be created, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can kind of work it out from there. And in fact, I think actually in the runtime, let's go have a look at the runtime. I think it does have in here like blocks into time kind of somewhere. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Time is measured by number of blocks. Okay, so this is like in my actual runtime. So I can see here we've got like minutes, hours, days. Okay, so this is like milliseconds per block, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we have, there's milliseconds as well. So we have kind of time measurement blocks in the runtime. So it makes sense then that I would do something similar here. So I'm going to create it on is going to be the block height. Block height, for anybody who's not heard that term before, is this is our current block height, is 100. So how many blocks have been authored, essentially. And then other thing we want to have is the status of the project. So is it still ongoing? Is it like in progress? Is it completed? Is it canceled? Is it usual kind of stuff? So status probably should be an enum as well, which we do not have a status enum right now, but we're going to put that in just as a placeholder, and I will go create that in a second. The title. So title is an interesting one. Storing strings on a blockchain. So there's a lot of considerations here. I'm Rust as well. One, storage is expensive on blockchains. it doesn't come for free. We would be very thoughtful about what it is that we're storing. And strings tend to be pretty hard to compress, so other things with like fixed lengths and stuff, we can work with pretty it's easier for us to work with, or less complex for us to work with than it is with strings. So we don't tend to store like the raw string anywhere. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to store this as a collection, because that's what a string is. It's a collection of bytes. And we don't want to have it unbounded. So by unbounded, I mean like no fixed length. We want to make sure that the string has a max length, so people aren't like storing the entirety of like the B movie script on our blockchain. That would be wasteful. So we're gonna have a bounded vec, and bounded vec needs a couple of things. It's gonna need like what it is. That's gonna be a vector off. So it's gonna be a vector off U8. So we're gonna store our byte array of our string, and then we need to give it a fixed length. So I'm gonna make this configurable on my max. That's just the max length, actually. There we go. All right, so this is going to be a variable that we can change, that we can set as part of our configuration for our blockchain. And the way in which we do that is going to be in our runtime. So, in here we can see there's these different, timestamp has some configuration variables here. So does like our transaction payment. So does sudo. Here's our palette projects. Okay, so we've already got some configuration for this palette already, and we're going to create a new item in here for that title. So we're going to define it first. Let's go back in here, and we define these in our palette config. So, okay, here we go. Configure the palette parameters types, which depends. So that sounds like where we should be putting this kind of stuff. And we're going to need this is a palette constant. I spelled that correctly? Yeah, I think so. So our micro, I'm going to do a type of, what do we say? Titles max length. Yeah, we're going to stick that in there. And what is... And... Okay, so this is going to store U8s, but this is not going to be a U8. This is going to be a U32. So that like we can make it a little bit longer if you needed to. Okay. And let's comment in here so we know what it says. Maximum length for project titles. Don't let people store entire e-movie scripts on chain. There we go. Oh, okay, so we defined it here, but we need to put it into our runtime as well. So we are going to go into our runtime where we were a second ago, and here. So we have our palette projects. I just remember myself where this. Okay, so we're going to do our titles max length equals titles max length, and then we're going to do our parameter types, and we're going to make this 25.6. There we go. Okay. All right, so that should all be okay. Nice. We have this max length constant that we're defining. So now anybody who tries to send a string that's beyond our configuration in here, beyond this max length value, which is 256, it should throw an error, shouldn't allow it, so that should be fine. And it's a bounded vector as well, so it won't be able to grow beyond that size. That's okay. Milestones, they're going to be a bounded vector too. we're gonna have some kind of like limit on the number of milestones that they can have. We're gonna need to be its own struct as well of milestone. And I guess we should make this configurable too. So it's going to be milestones max length. Okay, so we can just do the exact same thing in here. We're going to do maximum number of milestones per project. Let's just do our palette instant. And we're going to do type milestone length, and that's going to be a 32 as well. Okay, that should be okay. I think. I think something else I need around that. Oh yeah, of course I'll need to add it to my runtime as well. It's the same as I did here. What do I call it? Milestones max length. So let's pop in here, and we're going to do a type of milestones max length equals that, and we're going to do the same thing up here. Const. And that is going to be our U32. And what? How many milestones we're going to say? Does it even need to be U32? Yeah, we'll give U32. We can have a lot of milestones, so that's fine. You're going to be very, very particular about API. Oh, so we don't have block number. Why is it complaining to me that it does not know what block number is? Do we need to import that from somewhere? I'm wondering. Because it should know what my block number is. I'll figure that out in a second as to why it's complaining about that. It'll be I'm missing an import somewhere to tell it what block number is, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it doesn't know what milestone is because we haven't created that yet. It doesn't know what status is because we've not created that yet either. In fact, let's do status first. We're going to create that as an enum. And I'm going to stick that in a different file. It doesn't need to be in my librs. Let's create a new file for that. And we're going to call it types. And we can pop it in here. Now, the reason I'm not putting this in a separate file is because it needs to come under this tconfig, under the palette config. It's just a thing with Substrate. Like, it's just a requirement off it. Not much we can do about that at the moment. So we're just going to stick it in there. There's actually a PR or an issue, one of the two. I think maybe both. I think there's a PR at the moment to allow you to break this stuff out into different like files, so you wouldn't have to have everything in your librs. Like I remember my final project for PBA for the Polkadot Blockchain Academy for the frame section was like thousands of lines long, just this one librs file. And it becomes pretty difficult to navigate when you've got a file that kind of length. So I'm very much looking forward to this PR landing where we can break stuff out into other files. I like to keep things very organized. But for now, block number of uppercase N. Good catch. Thank you. Yeah, I would have hunted for that for a while. So really appreciate it. Where does account ID come from? So the account ID we're saying here that we've got this generic T, which is of type config. So that's essentially, it's the same as like saying kind of config, titles max length, config, account ID, config, milestones max length, etc. So and we can see I'm setting these like on my config and stuff here. So that's where the account ID is coming from. It's a generic T of type config that has this trait, is what we're saying. So that's where the kind of these come from. Dylan is asking which PR for the splitting it into different files. Let me go see if I can find that. Separate files. It was Sam who did it, but let me just see if I can find the PR. It should be on GitHub somewhere. actually, you know what? If I look at my GitHub, it might help because I'm pretty sure I commented on it. Let me just pull up my GitHub here. Sorry, 2 seconds. Let's see if I can find this PR for everybody. Easy way for me to find ones I've commented on. I wonder. Participating. It's going to be somewhere in here. I have a lot of things I'm participating in by the looks of it. Cool. Okay. Let me. So there is. Cool. Okay. I find the issue or the pull request. Sorry. Let me just drop this in the chat for folks because anybody else is interested in taking a look at this. Okay, so it's on the Substrate repo. There is a PR. Yeah, Dylan's saying that specifying the entire config trait on the type is quite confusing though. Rather specify traits so it becomes more readable. I'm 100% with you. Yeah, there is a lot of things we can be doing to make things a little bit more readable in Substrate. And this is one of the first ones we're looking at, is the ability to kind of split it up into multiple different files, which you used to be able to. This is actually a fairly recent thing because of some macro magic that we're doing, where you lost the ability to kind of organize your palettes into different files and things to make it a little bit more navigable and easier to grok. But yeah, with that PR, if it lands, then you should be able to split things up into different sections. So you could have like a section for storages, you could have like a section for your calls or extrinsics, you can have sections for config, etc., etc. So just make it a little bit easier for folks to navigate and probably more maintainable as well, if I'm being honest. But yeah, so we have, oh yeah, I was going to do status. So I was creating a new types file, and I'm going to create a new enum in there. I'm going to grab a couple different things in here for stuff that I'm going to need. Rather than sitting much, we type out a bunch of like imports, and let's just pull all the usual derive statements that we need. There we go. And we're going to do a pub enum. Status, and okay, so statuses that we can have for a project. Let's do a pending. So project's not yet started, in progress. We probably want a complete. Yeah, complete. And we want cancelled. Not be completed. Pending, in progress, complete, cancelled. No, it's fine. It's fine like that. Okay, we're going to keep it as that. That's fine. And then we're going to need to import this before we can use it into our palette. So let's go back to here, and we're going to do yep. And then we are going to grab in our PubMod palette. Let's just do it up here. We're going to do what? Use create types. What was it? Status. What do I call it? Yeah. Okay, cool. So that should solve that import error we got here. We got the block number, milestone. So this is still not defined. We need to define this somewhere. And what are we going to have on a milestone? What kind of things should that have? It's probably going to need like a title. Hey, nice to see you, Jafar. Yeah, the implementation for splitting it up, I'm a big fan. I really hope that lands. There's still some discussion and things going on around it. It looks like it probably will go through. I do need to get caught up on kind of the last couple weeks worth of comments and things, but last time I saw it, we had a working implementation. I don't think we lose anything by adding it. There may be a little bit additional kind of maintenance burden, but I think the gains from it massively outweigh that, especially for parachains and people further down the line. Like, yeah, okay, it might just require a little bit additional maintenance for Substrate itself, but for the parachains or anybody else developing their own palettes, the ability to have them like split over multiple files is just, yeah. I don't know if it's just me, but I find navigating a file of thousands of lines quite daunting and quite difficult as well, if I'm being 100% honest. I know it shouldn't really make a difference, and like my editor can do, you know, folding and stuff. Like I can like hide stuff if I need to be. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Go away, Git. You know, like my editor can do like folding and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I can make it like a little bit easier to navigate. And I got pretty good, if I'm being honest, with using the shortcuts in VS Code to jump. I think it was like, is that the right one? Yeah, the jump between different symbols and things in my code. Whenever it did get to like a few thousand lines long. So there is ways you can do it now. It's just not the way I tend to work. And I've been a developer for a very long time, and I'm quite stuck in my ways. So I'm quite glad this is coming in. But yeah, so what else we're looking at here? We were looking at, milestones. Okay, so what is going to be on a milestone? So milestone, let's just grab this stuff again as well. And let's define that. So we're going to have what? A pub struct milestone. What am I going to need? Well, it's just, if we don't need it, we're going to remove it again, but I'm going to assume that we might need our generic config again. And right, so let's give it a title again, you know, so let's just do the same things we got here. So then we're gonna have a title for a milestone. It's going to be attached to our project here. It's going to be part of this bounded vec, so that should be probably fine. Oh, it's going to need some kind of fee, you know, so like what's the payment for completing this milestone, you know, so that's going to be, we're going to need to like set a fee for that. We'll come back to that in a second. What else should have? Created on, same as this, you know, when did we create this milestone? Probably want to have when it was updated as well. Should we have updated for project 2? Yeah, let's have updated them both, you know, so we can see if a project is stalled. No, because we can do that with milestones. Yeah. So if a project has milestones that are being updated, then we know the project itself is not stale. The project is currently actively under development. But if a project doesn't have any milestones, or the milestones themselves have not been updated in X number of blocks, then we can assume that the project is stale, and we can do something to, you know, probably get rid of the project or to cancel it or something else. So we can do that as well. And it should probably have status too. I don't think there was anything in that status enum that was like specific to project, was it? It was just like pending and project. Yeah, okay, cool. Those statuses will work for our milestone too. So it's just like fee that we're probably looking at. And should we give it an ID? Some kind of like reference, or is title enough, do we think? We're going to have a time when we have two projects with the same title attached, or sorry, two milestones with the same title attached to one project? Potentially, I guess. So let's give it an ID, which is going to be like milestone. What should we call it? Give it milestone hash. Going to be our ID type. Probably stick that in here as well. Yeah, let's put that in types. And we'll just do it. Milestone hash is going to be some kind of array. For now, we'll figure that out in a minute. What that should be. Oh no, that's wrong. It should be there. Okay, so our milestone hash is an array of U8s. Need to import that too. There we go. This is going to set a hash for it. They're going to give us some kind of title. We need to sort out what how we're going to manage fees in a second as well. So people are saying, I should try IntelliJ with the Rust plugin. Yeah, people were asking earlier, what is the best IDE for Substrate development? And honestly, Substrate is just Rust. So whichever IDE you feel most comfortable working in Rust in. I use VS Code because that's what I'm most familiar with. I have the Rust Analyzer plugin installed here. It does everything I've needed it to do so far. If I'm being 100% honest, I've not hit any limitations. If I do, then I'll probably look further afield. But right now, this is working for me. But yeah, whatever you're productive in, to be honest, like I'm not any kind of IDE maximalist in any way. I've used a bunch of different ones over the years, and the best IDE to me is one that just gets out of my way. I shouldn't need to think about how I'm using it. You know, I just it's a tool to allow me to accomplish something. and the best tool should be invisible. You know, if I need to work around my IDE too much, or if I need to like think too much about what it's doing, then I probably need to get a better IDE. Right now, I'm really familiar with VS Code. I don't need to think about it too much. It does everything I need it to do. So I just use that. I have no incentive to make a change. If that changes for whatever reason, then I'll probably look at like IntelliJ or one of the other ones. Dylan said most of the palettes became like 2,000 lines after a year of development. Yeah, I am not surprised by that at all. I really am not. I did I wrote a little script to go through all of the palettes in Frame that Parity maintains, like all of the ones we talked about kind of earlier that are kind of bundled with Substrate. And I think the average length in those is over 1,000 lines long, and we have some that are 2,000 plus. So that does not surprise me that any kind of Frame palette development, you know, after any kind of considerable amount of time is going to get pretty large. So yeah, 2,000 lines. Like it's not shocking to me in the slightest, and it becomes difficult to navigate. Like it really does. So Jafar saying you lost last episode. It's from scratch, and can develop VPN as Frame. So yeah, last episode really we just looked at setting up the Substrate node template. You didn't miss out too much. It is on YouTube. All of our live streams, they go out on Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, I think. And the recordings are automatically posted as soon as the stream finishes to YouTube. So if you did miss our last one, you can pick it up there. I said we really just went through configuring the Substrate node template, so don't worry, you're not too far behind on anything. Can we develop a VPN as Frame? I'm not sure how you would use a blockchain as a virtual private network. The thing is, theoretically, yes. Like Frame is just Rust, and you can really write whatever code you want as a palette. I'm not sure the benefits you would get. Maybe if you wanted to have, normally VPNs are like for privacy, is my understanding of it. You know, you want to have security, you want to have privacy of like who you're connecting to. So keeping any kind of like major logs of VPN connections is not normally a selling point of a VPN provider, as far as I'm aware. So having an immutable log for a VPN, I'm not sure where the advantage would come through. But theoretically, sure. if you can write it in Rust, you can probably write it as a Frame palette. Okay, so where do we get to? Oh yes, so we're gonna look at fees. Okay, so fees is where we come into kind of tokens and currency and that kind of stuff within Frame. So this is it's a really common thing that you're going to do. It's also a little bit complex as well. So first things that we're going to have to add in is like, we're going to need a few more imports within our palette here. And this is where we're going to pull in some additional palettes that Parity maintains. You know, I talked to somebody, see if we can pull up this. Was it in here? We looked at it. Let's go forward. Yeah. So we talked earlier about how Substrate comes with a bunch of different palettes already kind of developed for you. that you can use, that you can compose your own blockchain out of. And some of those palettes are around kind of like managing assets and balances and that kind of stuff. So like having some kind of, managing a token, some kind of like asset or currency or something for individual accounts. And that we have frame palettes for that for you. Obviously, again, if you wanted to do it differently, you can write your own frame palettes for it. I'm going to stick to using some of the ones that's currently in Substrate at the moment. And I can just start like importing those into my project. So we're going to have somewhere in my palette. Yep, so above my palette. So I've got like my use creates here. Frame support. What am I going to need from frame support? I'm still going to need this prelude. That's for sure. I'm probably going to need SP runtime as well. So let's bring that in. And a bunch of different traits. So we are going to have currency. We're going to need what else? Named reservable currency. Reservable currency. And we're going to do yeah, we're gonna do allow death as well. So we're gonna bring this in here. So let's just preludes. Oh yeah, gonna need a little. Well, that's gonna come in here, and we're gonna go there. I'm missing something somewhere here. Palette prelude, runtime, traits. Okay, let's open that. That's closing that one, and that is probably what I'm missing. Cool. There we go. I think that should be correct. Palette preludes. You know what? Let's bring these down here. Let's make it a little bit easier for me to read it. So we got palette prelude, we got SP runtime, and then we have a bunch of traits. We got currency, named reserve currency, and then we are going to close off that one. Okay, yeah, frame support. These are all in frame support, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, okay. So the different things I've got here with regards to currency, I probably should explain those a little bit for people who are not overly familiar with kind of how the currency stuff works. So we have, our managing our assets here. The named reservable currency, that's going to allow me to reserve some currency. Sorry, is that a better way to describe this? So if we're looking at like an account ID, so we're looking at our coffer here. Okay, so this is going to be our account that's going to hold our full balance for paying any of the fees. Yeah. So whenever a new milestone is added, we're going to have to look at this balance and go, hey, does this have enough in it to pay the fee for this milestone? Because if it doesn't, then we probably shouldn't create this milestone. We want to make sure that there is enough available assets to pay for this milestone before we add it to the project. So we'll need to top up our coffer, our pot, our treasure chest, whatever you want to call it. And then we can add in our milestone. But we can have multiple milestones. So we're going to have something here to mark certain funds as being already assigned to a particular milestone. Okay, does that make sense? So like, say each milestone is 10 tokens, and in here we have 10 tokens. We want to, whenever we go to add our first milestone, it's going to look at here, it's going to go, okay, yes, we have 10 tokens. Great. I can add this milestone that costs 10 tokens. If we try to add a second milestone that also costs 10 tokens, it needs to look at this and go, oh, there's 10 tokens in here, but they've been reserved for a previous milestone. Okay, does that make sense? So we can't just look at the balance and go, oh yeah, you have enough to cover this milestone. So like, oh, you have 10 tokens reserved to cover previous milestone or other milestones, and you do not have enough free balance remaining to add on any new milestones. So that is what this named reservable currency is going to allow us to do. We're not going to take the currency out of the pot because we don't want to transfer it until the milestone is complete. But we want to mark some of the tokens as being like, oh, these are already earmarked for something, to be used in, to pay for this milestone or whatever else. So that's what our named reservable currency is going to be for. What else we need to do to set up currency? There's a bunch of things that need to be done. So we need a balance off. We're gonna like create a new type here to make this easy to work with. So we're gonna do type balance off. This is like just a really common convention that you'll find throughout Substrate. So balance of t is going to be equal to our generic t as config. Oh no. Yeah, it's where it's really, really complex. So we've got a generic t, which is our config, which is got our currency. And we're going to do that as currency. And that itself is going to have another generic inside it, which is going to be our frame system. Okay. Account ID. That's correct. Yeah. Okay. So generic T config trait currency as currency generic T frame system config with current ID. Is it balance? Okay, that should work. I'm not going to go ahead explaining exactly what it is because like it's Rust generics and advanced traits. We could spend like the entire freaking stream talking about them. We use it a lot for Substrate. I'm still confuses me to read stuff like this. I really need to sit with it sometimes to properly figure it out. But yeah, I highly recommend that if you want to start learning Substrate, is get super familiar with generics and advanced traits. They're used everywhere, and there is good reason for it. Like, I know it makes things more complex. It definitely makes things more difficult to read. The reason, though, is that we try to make things as loosely coupled as possible. So because we do have all of these palettes, we looked at here, we've got all these different palettes. So you can swap it in out. That you can use some. You can, write your own. You can like compose your blockchain in any which way that you want. We want to make it as loosely coupled as possible. So you can choose like, oh yes, I want to use, your consensus, but I want to manage tokens in a different way, or I want to do staking a different way. I want to do governance in a different way, but so we're going to use the assets palette, but we're going to do staking in a different way, or we're not even going to do staking. We're going to do some other kind of proof of work or whatever way you want to do it, And in order for you to be able to compose it through using some of our palettes and some of your own palettes and some palettes from, the open web 3 stack or whatever else you want to do, it needs to be very loosely coupled. And that does mean that we have a lot of generics. We have a lot of advanced traits. There is definitely trade-off happening there. And a lot of time, to be honest, I have these things already kind of built out that I've used previously that I'm just like going to go, I know this works. I'm going to copy it across, and I'm not going to really think about what these different traits are. I just know these are the traits that it requires, and that's all fine. So yeah, that's a long type. How do you know this type exists or even come up with that? The way I know that this exists or how I come up with that is because I've done this before. And I honestly had a lot of trial and error to get this point. Also read a lot of the other palettes. Like all of these, I should point out, like all the palettes in here, they're all open source. Like you can go through and look at it. Okay, so we talked about strings earlier. How I learned to store strings in Substrate was through the Nix palette. So we have this Nix palette, which allows you to set names associated with like an account. So rather than having just like the account ID, you can set a name for it as well. And so obviously it needs to be able to store strings. And that is how I learned about storing strings in Substrate, was by reading the code off this palette. You know, so if we, let's see, it probably has in here somewhere. Oh, look. Doesn't that look familiar? You know, so here's my name of type, and we have this bounded vec of U8 with a max length. You know, that if we, so keep that in your head for a second, and let's go back and look at my codes for a title, bounded vec U8 max length. You know, and I will be honest that this is how I've learned most of working with Frame, is by reading other palette code. You know, is by looking at different palettes, how they do things. You know, in here, does it have currency? Yep. So here we go. We've got like, you know, our currency in there. I bet they probably have a balance off configured somewhere. Balance off. You know, so like really, this is. I know it's not ideal, and we are working on getting more documentation for this kind of stuff. It's a big part of what I'm working on at the moment. I'm going to be publishing very shortly a series on storages. So I'm really deep into storages right now and giving some useful kind of usage examples of storages, etc. I know that Ben, who has been in chat, is also working on a lot of similar kind of content about like getting started with blockchain. So we recognize that expecting people to go in and read the code is not the ideal way to educate yourself or to learn something. But I am being 100% honest. That is how I have learned it so far, and that's like how I know how to create that balance off, is just from seeing it other places and learning that way. So yeah. We've got people's like saying, yep, Polkadot, rocket ship. Yeah, I'm so happy to be working with Polkadot and working with Frame and Rust. It's complex, but it is a lot of fun as well. Okay, so we have, where did we get to on our balance and stuff? So we did our like balance of T here. And whoop, let me just pull up my chat and stuff. So I'm trying to remind myself where I am. Yeah, so we're now we need to set up our currency balance and currency, need reserve currency, etc. in our config here. So we got like our different types sitting here. We've got like our type weight info, we've got our runtime event type, etc. I need one for currencies and I need one for balances as well. And I am not going to sit and type these out. This is, like I said before, I have these in a different palette I've worked with, so I know this is like what I need. And we can see here that like I've got type currency balance, which is like all of these, and I've got type currency, which is my named reservable currency, you know, over these. So I'm going to save that up. But yeah, I would not be able to sit and type this out from memory. Not a chance. Like, not at all. I don't think I ever have. I just go look at like another palette and how it works with balances and how it works with currencies, and reuse it from there. Like I could sit down and like work out each individual one, and I kind of like know what a lot of them are and what they do, etc. And I think I did write this one myself at one point. But yeah, for a lot of times it is just looking at previous code to see like kind of previous implementations and stuff of things. Yeah. So let's see what else we got going on in chat here. Oh, lost my window. Okay. Cool. So we have our currency palette. I'm probably going to need to make some modifications to my runtime as well, if I remember correctly. But I probably at this point can at least set my fee now to balance of T. So I can go in here and I can do this. Is going to be balance off that we created earlier. That should work. Yeah, like this. Why is title sharding at me now? Oh, it's not. It's just Rust Analyzer is trying to catch up. It should go away in a second. I hope. Try saving it one more time and see. Right, so we got milestone. Why are you complaining? Missing generics for milestone. Oh, yeah, because this has got like our keys and stuff. So we're going to need to give this in our project is going to have to know what those are as well, I'm pretty sure. Actually, let's not store our milestones in here. Let's just store our milestone hash so we can look this up. Yeah, there's no reason for us to duplicate, like to store a milestone as part of this storage. You know, we want milestones to have their own storage element rather than be written into the project, because we're going to be updating our milestones probably a lot more often, and we're going to be updating our project. So these should have their own storage. And in that way, we don't need to be like lift this site every time and modifying it each time. We can just, you know, keep modifying these as often as we want, and then it'll just be the hash of it that's stored as part of our project. That makes a lot more sense, actually. Yeah. Okay, cool. That should be fine. And what else do we need? I said we probably would need to update our runtime and bring in some stuff around kind of currencies and things as well. And I'm pretty sure we're going to probably need, if I think about it, I don't know if that's going to be installed, the balances palette and runtime. Let's go look at our dependencies and see. Okay. So in our cargo.toml file here, we have different dependencies. We got like our frame system. So that's okay. We need that. We probably also need our balances palette as well. We got like runtime here. Yeah. So we're going to need to bring in the balances. So I'm just going to copy that in because I know for dev. This is updated to 4.2. Hopefully not much has changed. Let's put that in. Okay, and what else we're going to need in here? I think that was all the new stuff we imported was just balances, wasn't it? Let's just run a cargo.check and see what happens right now. I bet it's going to like die on us, but we can at least see where it's dying. Oh crap. So yeah, we deleted that something. And a bunch of things are shouting at us about that. Use of undeclared create. This is what I was looking for, was any undeclared create. So we got this SP standard is undeclared. Where's that in our lib? Okay, so we're gonna need to import that as well. Okay. That's gonna go in here, I believe. We probably update our Polkadot version as well. Okay, so we've got our SP standard. Anything else you want to shout at me about? I'm gonna ignore all of these like not found in scope stuff because I deleted that, and that's fine. Use to undeclared create module create. Oh, okay. That's a typo. So let's go fix that typo. Create. There we go. Okay, now let's just see if it's going to shout out maybe any other imports. All of them covered. Okay, we've got unused. That's fine because we've not set that up yet. Okay, so this is not found in scope. I can probably take this back out then if it's shouting at me for this right now. Let's take this out. We can put it back in later if we need it. Okay, cool. So it's just like are some things that we deleted. So everything else with our import seems to be okay. So we could get rid of like these calls, and that would get rid of those errors. So that's okay. So what else have we got storages wise? So we have our balances for our milestones. Is there anything else we need to? So is this taken from the Substrate code? This is all FRAME development. So palettes. Palettes are essentially Rust crates. So this is like developing your own FRAME module that will work within inside Substrate, if that makes sense. So Substrate is like the blockchain SDK. Palettes are modules of code for FRAME, and FRAME is kind of like part of Substrate. It's not a required part of Substrate, as we talked briefly about earlier. The things like Tuxedo, which we had a Substrate seminar about a few weeks back. You can probably find the recordings of that on YouTube. Like Tuxedo completely replaces the frame part of Substrate, so you can use Substrate without frame. It's probably the most common way to use Substrate is with frame, but it's not a requirement. All the code I'm writing at the moment is all part of a palette, or a few runtime modifications to for configuration values and stuff, but let's not confuse things. As you say, it's all part of the palette, and the palette is like a frame module. So yeah, this is all part of Substrate, but layer of abstraction away from it. So no other GitHub is required, like Ink or Swanky. Not sure even by GitHub required. It doesn't require running within a smart contract. Is that what you're referring to? Like running within the smart contracts create? No, this is a level beneath that. Okay, so if you think of developing a smart contract as being an L2, this is if you wanted to write your own L1, so your own custom blockchain. So I'm developing this as a custom specialized blockchain for managing projects. Now, anything I'm doing currently here, you probably could do within a smart contract. If I'm being 100% honest, there's nothing I'm using here that is not available to Ink. Ink can access storages, and they can access accounts and do transfers, etc., etc. So there's nothing here that would necessarily require you to create your own blockchain. I'm doing it as a frame palette because this is the frame builder stream, and just to kind of give an example of how you would go about creating your own frame palettes. But yeah, you could totally do this as a smart contract in Ink. So the core Substrate layer 0, and anything on top of that layer 1, correct? Yeah. That's pretty much a way of looking at it. Yeah. We refer to Polkadot, the relay chain is being layer 0, Substrate being layer 0, and then yeah, you build your L1s, your different blockchains on top of that. So essentially, that's why I'm building at the moment. It's a custom blockchain, so a custom L1. I could also in this chain include the smart contracts palette, and then people could build an L2 on it, and we could have ways for them to communicate with the underlying functions and things on the chain. Also, of course, I can make these different methods callable via XCM. So you could build this into a larger application as part of a composable chain or application. If it ran this as a power chain attached to the Polkadot relay chain. But yeah, best way to think of this is a custom blockchain, its own L1. But yeah, there's nothing here you couldn't replicate in a smart contract yet. I don't know, as we get further into this project, maybe we'll start using some features that are not available as smart contracts. I don't know what they would be at the moment, but we have months of episodes ahead of us in the stream, so maybe we'll come across something later on. But yeah, so we have our milestones created, we've got our project created, we've got our balances and stuff loaded up here. I think that's most of our kind of types that we would need right now in order to get this started. What I do like to do for to make things a little bit easier for myself if any of the time I'm creating these sort of structs is have a implement new on them as well. So I'm going to do that for this one. So I'm going to do implement we're gonna need our generic over T here for a project, and we're going to give that T. Okay, and then yeah, we're going to do a public function new. I like to do this just to make it a little bit easier on myself whenever I am then creating projects. There's a couple of things here that are going to have defaults essentially that I don't need to really pass in whenever I want to create a new project. And I think this is, it's personal preference. You don't have to do this kind of thing. It's just the way in which I work. I like to have it very explicit where I've got a new function I can call, give it the required parameters and have it fill in anything else for me. So required parameters, we're going to have the title. title is going to be a required parameter. So we're probably going to pass this in first. So new is going to require a title. It's going to require our author. So somebody's going to set that for us. It's going to require the client. I'm going to be the set default for it. It's going to require a provider. Yep. An adjudicator. Yep. What else is we're going to have in here? We need to set some fees for the adjudicator, don't we? Like, how much are we going to pay them? For performing the task of adjudication. It shouldn't be like a set amount, because like depending upon the size of the project and things, if you have it like a set amount, it could be too much or too little. So let's just create, so the adjudicator, I really should have picked an easier word to spell, adjudicator fee, and it's going to be a percent. Yeah, let's make it a percent of the total fee for the milestone. And no, not fee. Let's make it a reward. Yeah, adjudicating a reward sounds better. And we probably want as well, if a project is cancelled, some way for the adjudicator to like, we can specify whether or not they still get their fee. So like it's not their fault if a project gets cancelled. They still give up their time or whatever. So we probably should have something in there that says where the routine reward. Yeah, let's do that. Adjudicator reward. And we'll just make that a bool. Okay, so this percent's not defined. Why is it showing it might be a bool? Oh, it's not. How can a non-techie guy like me enjoy this show? Oh, good question. Listen to my lovely accent. That's the best I have to offer you, I think. This is going to be like a pretty engineering tech focused, if I'm being 100% honest, because it's about code. It's live coding. It's building out a custom parachain. There's no way around that. You're probably going to need to have at least some experience in some programming language. Okay, you're not gonna need to know Rust inside and out. You're not gonna need to know Substrate inside and out, but you're probably gonna want to be familiar with it, some kind of programming language, programming concepts, etc. Like if you don't understand what these derive macros doing, it's not going to really impact too much on your ability to follow along with what I'm doing. You can probably guess that it's adding clone and some kind of like debug functionality to this struct, and if you don't understand like those massive this generics and stuff we're talking about earlier, again, we're just saying that we're going to create a new type of balance off that's going to hold some kind of currency or balance for a person. If you got that kind of understanding, you can probably roughly follow along with what's happening. But if you are not techie at all and you don't have any experience in programming, honestly, this is going to be pretty difficult for you to follow along with. It doesn't mean you can't learn anything. Doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it. Hopefully we can still interact. And if there is something that's not immediately obvious, I can do my best to try and explain it for you. But it definitely is aimed at people who have a little bit of experience in programming. So if that's not you, I'm sorry. We do have other streams that happen. And again, I think they're all pretty technical. The Substrate seminars, which is on every Tuesday, sometimes they can be pretty technical, I'll be honest. Sometimes they're more about overviews of things that are happening in the ecosystem. So other projects that are going on, parachains. We had somebody on from Crust, I think last week or the week before, explaining kind of like IPFS, so interplanetary file system, and how that all works. And that was a little bit technical, but wasn't like code level. They weren't like live coding on it. So there's definitely other streams on the channel that may be a better fit. But I still hope you'll hang out and like say hi, even on this one, even if it's like, you're non-techie, we still have fun. So Douglas is asking, the core substrate code is palettes, like the account palette that represents an actual coin token. Are the palettes that would incorporate exchange of say dot to BTC and back again, or say liquidity pool where dot is paired with USDT? I don't know if we have a bridges palette, which is what I think you're talking about there, is being able to bridge out to another chain such as BTC. I don't know actually. If there is a bridges palette, let's go have a look and see if there's anything. Because let's just. I am not seeing anything under bridge, so I don't know if there's anything that we do maintain ourselves for that. I know that it is possible. There are parachains at the moment that do bridge out to other blockchains. Moonbeam and A-Star are two that come to mind. I'm pretty sure they both have bridges. There's definitely parachains and projects in the ecosystem that are working around bridging. Obviously, we have XCM as well, our cross-consensus mechanism, which we use for reaching consensus from different parachains along the relay chain. That XCM is not just for Polkadot, though. Like it is designed to be kind of generic, so that it could be used really in any consensus system. So not just on a substrate based chain, but really any chain that wants to implement the XCM standard. So we would hope eventually that other chains and other networks also implement XCM, and then you can use XCM to kind of call out to different to reach consensus across chains. But yeah, even right now there is chains that currently do have bridges out to other chains and liquidity pools, etc. So it definitely is possible. I don't know if we personally maintain a palette to do that. Something I would need to look into, to be honest. But yeah, it's definitely possible for you to do it. Hopefully that answers your question, Douglas. So where did we get to on this stuff? Oh yeah, I need to define percent. Because that's kind of something we need to import from the runtime, actually. So we are going to do that here. Where is my imports? That's going to be imported within my palette. So we're going to bring it in here. That's a good place to stop, I think, at the moment. So, we got another question first. So XCM is Polkadot to another parachain within Polkadot, but XVM, A-Star is a bridge to another chain altogether. If I said that correctly. XVM, I'm not sure. I don't know each of the parachains technologies intimately. I know different things about different ones. There's like 40 plus of them currently live on Polkadot alone, not to mention ones that are like on Kusama too. So I don't know each individual one. So I can't say if XVM is their version of bridging. But yeah, XCM is Polkadot to another parachain within Polkadot at the moment. Okay. XCM is cross consensus mechanism, and it is designed to work with like any consensus system. So we currently use it. We're dogfooding it. We're using it for communication amongst parachains along the relay chain. There is nothing preventing other companies or other projects or anything, or other blockchains, whatever you like, essentially, from implementing the same standard within their chain. So if they've got their own consensus mechanism, there's nothing stop preventing them from using XCM as their cross consensus messaging as well for that mechanism. And eventually what we'd really hope is that all of these separate chains, not just those deployed on Polkadot on the relay chain, but like all blockchains, would have some form of cross consensus mechanism. Maybe it's XCM, maybe it's some other standard. I personally, as long as there's some standard and chains can interop and communicate, I'll be happy. I'd love for it to be XCM. The team at Parity has put a lot of work into that. I think they've done a wonderful job. I would love for that to become like the standard across the entire industry. We'll see if that happens or not. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as we have some form of interoperability, it's a win for everybody. And XCM has been designed to work with any consensus system. So hopefully it's that. We'll see. Yeah, there's a lot to wrap your head around. I'll agree. Yeah, there's a lot of terminology that is not really used anywhere else. So there's definitely a whole new lexicon to learn too. But yeah, I think that's kind of a good place to leave it for today. Next time, then we're going to get into some math. Yeah, because we need to work out percentages. We need to do like, how are we going to reach consensus around doing mathematical operations in Substrate? That seems like a good place for us to tackle on Thursday. We'll go into it in depth then, but just as a little kind of little sneak peek, because we are running a consensus system and because computers are not very good with floats, we have to be pretty careful whenever we're doing any kind of mathematical operation that could result in some kind of floating point number. Because if different operating systems, different architectures are going to have different levels of precision for floating point numbers. And in a system that requires consensus, that's something we got to be very careful with. So we'll get into some safe math on the next stream, which is going to be on Thursday. So I hope you all can tune in then as well. So I said we stream across multiple different services. We are on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, I think, as well. So subscribe in whichever service you prefer. And actually, we are going to be back on streaming again in what time we got now? In about an hour and 20. I think. Yeah, I think it's been an hour and 20. We're going to be back looking at ink, looking at some smart contract stuff. So please stick around for that as well. It won't be myself. It'll be one of my lovely colleagues is going to be streaming about it. And then we're back again tomorrow with Substrate seminars. I'll be returning on Thursday, as we just talked about, to do some more frame development. And then we will have another deep dive on Friday. So lots of streaming happening. I hope you all have had a lovely start to your week. And hopefully we'll see you all Thursday. So have a good day, everybody. And I will chat to you all later. Bye.